Congratulations, you got signed up for the DOPEY challenge, and just getting through the registration process is definitely a challenge in and of itself. And you probably were so excited to get signed up, and now reality's sinking in and that you actually have to train for 4 races for 4 days in a row. And that may feel super daunting, as well as all the other things that you need to be considering. So in this video, we're going to be discussing all the ideas, tips, tricks, everything you need to know about training for the DOPEY challenge. First off, you want to come up with your training plan. Now, there's lots of different options and ways to do this. There's free training plans that you can find online. Run Disney actually works with Jeff Galloway, and he has free training programs. They also have coaches that can come up with a custom design training plan for you. There are lots of people out in the internet who do training plans as well, and they can customize them specifically for you if you want to have a coach kind of walk you through the whole process, or you can just download their training plans. And of course, here at Physical Therapy for Everybody, we have a training plan as well. Here's the thing about our training plan. It is very specifically designed for a very specific person. This training plan has a lot of miles, and some people may not do well with it. So let me explain. The Physical Therapy for Everybody DOPEY training plan is designed specifically for people who are in half marathon shape at the start of their training. And what that means to me is if your best buddy called and said, hey, there's a super awesome half marathon this weekend and I have an extra registration, do you want to come do it with me? You could say yes. Now, it may not be your fastest half marathon. You may not do your best at this half marathon, but you are going to be able to finish it and know confidently that you can finish it successfully. The reason why is that we start with a really high distance in the first week. I've looked at the other training programs out there, and some of them started a much lower distance in that first week, which may be ideal for some other people. However, many of those training plans also did not get up to the long distances that I personally wanted to have as part of my training program. So our longest run was 21 miles to replicate the marathon. And I personally believe that anywhere between 20 to 22 miles is enough to do as a replication to ensure that you're going to be able to do the marathon distance. Now, what I really like about our training program is that halfway through you start doing simulation weeks. So you start simulating that 4 days in a row of running. Of course, you start off at a lower mileage and you work your way up. About 4 weeks before the real deal, you're going to do your final simulation, which is going to include those longer distances, including that 21 miles. We were in half marathon shape before we developed this plan. We worked this plan and we did do all of these runs. We did do a little bit of reorganization because life happens and weather happens and things happen along the way, but we did put in all the miles. And although there are a lot of miles to put in, we were able to do them injury-free because we were starting in that half marathon shape. We've run half marathons basically every year except for the COVID years for the past 15 years. And so we really have that half marathon under our belt, and this was a perfect training plan for us. Now, this is a running training plan. You could modify it to a run walk, but if you're gonna do the run walk, then I would probably recommend doing the Galloway method just because it's designed for a run walk method. And do you really need a coach in order to train for DOPEY? You might be shocked to hear me say, it really depends. I believe that some people who are starting out in running or newer in running, or people who do not have a network around them who are going to support them in their running, I recommend having a coach. To have someone to talk to about, is it safe for me to run tomorrow or not? Just having a coach who knows you and your story and can cheer you on can be super helpful. Now, I'm a physical therapist, so I'm able to do a lot of that work on my own. I was also running with my husband, so I had someone to hold me accountable and to be my cheerleader along the way, as I was for him. I didn't personally use a coach, but I could definitely see a world where people would. And if you get on some of the Run Disney Facebook pages, there are some great ideas for coaches out there. All right, you've got your training plan. You've decided if you need a coach or not. What things do you need to be considering during your training? First step, you need to make sure that you're training in all different types of weather. When we were out in Florida, it actually was pretty cold most mornings, except for one morning it was 60 degrees and it was rainy. Now, we're from the Pacific Northwest, so we're used to rain and we're used to cold, and it actually worked out pretty fine for us. However, if you are someone who doesn't live where it gets super cold, or you avoid running outside in the cold, or you don't like running in the rain and you avoid runs like that, you're not going to have a chance to properly test your gear. Because you want to make sure that when those socks and shoes get wet, you're not going to get a ton of blisters. So make sure that you train in all the weather possibilities that you can, from really hot to really cold, whatever's available in your area, because you want to make sure when it comes to race day that you've already tackled that challenge. Along with that, you also want to train in your outfits that you're going to wear. Now, that's one of the things I love about Run Disney is that people wear some super cute outfits, and it would seem rather amusing to see them just running around my local town, but I am grateful that they take the time to do that because I love seeing their outfits on course. Now, I didn't have any super cute outfits like that. However, I did have some pretty fun outfits and I trained in them beforehand, because you want to make sure when race day comes that your outfits work for your race. The next most important thing we need to talk about is shoes. On the different Run Disney Facebook pages, I saw a lot of people who were asking for shoe recommendations 3 to 4 weeks before the marathon. Friends, I do not want you to get in that position where something has gone so terribly wrong with your shoes that you cannot run the marathon in them. I highly recommend actually dealing with the shoe issue before you start training. Now, since it's 4 days of races, I also recommend that you have more than one pair of shoes. At minimum, I'd recommend you have 2 pairs of shoes. Now, I actually took 4 pairs of shoes out to Disney World because I have a short distance shoe and I have a long distance shoe. So I had to take one for each day because I didn't know if I would be able to wear my short distance shoes 2 days in a row. What if it rained? What if? So many things could have happened. So I actually took 4 pairs of shoes out there. For DOPEY, I think it's normal to take 2 and many people take 3. 4 may seem excessive, but 1 is definitely not going to be enough, friends. So make sure you take multiple pairs of shoes, and I would highly recommend 4, but that's my personal preference. Now, here's the thing, why getting your shoes locked in before you start training is so important. So we had figured out our shoes before we started training, our short distance shoes and our long distance shoes. Now, of course, when you're training, you're going through shoes faster, right? So we had to replace those initial set of shoes when we were halfway through our training process. Now we need to make sure those have been replaced. Now for me, because I wanted to have 4, I had to do another set of shoes to make sure I had enough for every single day, because my initial pair of shoes, they were dead. Like, they were done. We were not going to use those anymore. When I bought that 3rd set of shoes, my long distance shoes, so the shoe I was planning on running the marathon in, that I had already been practicing those long distances in, just, it was a different physical shoe, but it was the same model, same year, same everything. As soon as I ran over 13 miles in those shoes, the bottoms of my feet started to fall asleep. Now, initially, I thought this was just this weird one-off thing, except for the same thing literally happened to my husband. And of course, he wears a different shoe and his stuff is totally different than mine. I didn't even know about it until actually half marathon day. And I was grabbing my half marathon shoes and I was like, okay, these are my half marathon shoes, because what was supposed to be my marathon shoes became my half marathon shoes because I can do 13.1 miles in them. And I was like, okay, I have to put these on. These are my half marathon shoes. I put on my half marathon shoes. And he's like, why is that such a big deal? So I told him my story and he's like, oh my gosh, the same thing happened to me. And again, I cannot stress enough, these are exactly the same shoes, exactly the same make, exactly the same model, exactly the same year. Everything was the same. It was just a different shoe that we had. Make sure you figure out your shoes beforehand so you can thoroughly test them during the training so that you know you won't have any problems when it comes to the DOPEY challenge. Another thing that training is great for, other than testing your shoes and testing your outfit, is testing your food. In 2025, out on the race course, they had Powerade and they had Sport Beans. And if those are going to work for you, or whatever is going to be available the year you're racing, then awesome, you don't have to take any food or water or anything on course, which is great. But if that's not what you've trained with, or if that doesn't work for you, and I personally hate Powerade and I didn't even try the Sport Beans, I was like, no, we're not even doing that. Then you want to train with the food that you're going to use. And it can take a while to figure out what actually works for you. Personally, for me, the goos don't work as the only thing on course. I actually prefer a Snickers bar before I race, a granola bar while I'm racing, candy corn to get me across that finish line, and Element to have in my water bottles. Now, I'll put links to all of that stuff below, and you can definitely check it out, including the shoes and everything like that. However, you need to try it out for yourself, and you need to do that during your training process. Don't want to deviate from it when you're doing the DOPEY. Please, friends, I cannot stress this enough. Do not deviate from your plan during the DOPEY. It could lead to some disastrous results. Now, hydration. A lot of people ask me, do you actually need to bring water while you're running the longer distances like the half marathon or the marathon? I will tell you, Disney does one thing super fantastically, and that is water stops. Every single water stop had Powerade at the front, water at the back. I didn't realize it at first, so I ended up grabbing a Powerade and then being like, oh no, I don't want this. But after that, I realized it, and it was consistent across all of the races. They also had different cups for the Powerade and the water. I just wasn't really paying attention. There was a lot of people around and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm not saying it'll be like that for your race, but that's how it was for ours. Powerade was first, water was second, and it became very clear, and it was very consistent over all the races. In fact, I will tell you, during the marathon, I stopped 3 times to go to the bathroom. I feel very confident that you do not need to bring your own water. However, I did bring water bottles, and in it was water mixed with Element, because one of my issues, especially when I'm running in Florida in the heat and humidity, which it turns out we didn't actually really have the heat when we were running the marathon, but I was prepared from it from my previous experience of running the marathon in Walt Disney World. I need to have some salt. So I wanted to have my Element with me, which I did drink all of that in addition to stopping at most of the water stops. But if you can rely on either the Powerade or the water, you're going to be fine, and you don't need to actually carry water with you. A little bit of a side note too, if you're not a porta potty person, you can use the bathrooms in the parks as you're running by. And I only used a porta potty at once the whole entire time I was there for DOPEY. Most of the time I just waited until we got into the park and used the bathroom. Now, a couple other things that may or may not be relevant for you, but I definitely like to point out because they were critical for me. When I am running long distances, now I need to wear compression socks. I had bought these super cute compression socks from Crazy Compression, and I was so excited about them because they were so cute and they were just perfect for the Florida weather. And I did end up wearing them 2 of the days. 2 of the days, it was 40 degrees in the morning, and that was the 5K and the 10K. So I wasn't running a long distance, and I wasn't actually planning on wearing compression socks because I usually don't, but I actually ended up wearing my Bombuses in order to stay warmer. So you can check out this review here that I did on Bombus versus Crazy Compression. But one of the things I had said was that Bombuses are really good for cold weather, but I was planning on it being warmer in Florida, so I thought I was going to wear the Crazy Compression anyway. Plus, they match the outfit. However, I will say I ended up running 2 races in Bombuses and 2 races in Crazy Compression. Now, they're both fantastic socks. It's really which works better for you and matches your outfit if you want to be cute like that. But definitely something you want to consider before race day. You want to try it out while you're training because you want to make sure that you're going to be safe for your race. The other thing that I learned about, which you will hear about a lot in the Run Disney community, is UFOs. Now, friends, I thought the idea of recovery shoes was ridiculous, and I was like, oh, I don't really need those. But man, when you are training for DOPEY and you're doing that many days of running and that long of a distance of running, and then I stand all day for work as a physical therapist, my legs and my feet were getting tired. So I broke down. I bought the pair of UFOs, and I will tell you, I now live in them. In fact, I'm actually wearing them while I'm filming this video. I cannot say enough good things about UFOs, and it's actually what I ended up wearing while we went to the parks after each race because it gave my foot a chance to be in a different shoe. Now, I will say that the parks tore up my UFOs, so I actually took an old pair, totally decimated. But in all honesty, UFOs last about as long as a pair of running shoes does if you wear them regularly. So it's not like you're going to buy one pair and never have to buy another pair in your entire life. Like, they wear down. But friends, I can tell you, if you are training for the DOPEY, it is totally worth the money. It's going to make a huge impact on how your legs feel, especially when you wear them after your long run. We have a ton of videos that go into way more detail all about the training and the different things I tried for nutrition. And we'll link all of those videos below so you can check those out and get more information for yourself, as well as we'll link the shoes that Matt and I both use, as well as the different products. I would highly recommend that you get some emergency blankets, some hot hands, and some throwaway gloves for when you're standing in the corral. Even if it's not that cold, one morning it was 60 degrees, we still had all of our stuff, which was great because it was raining. And so we were able to blouse our emergency blanket over our shoes so our shoes didn't get super wet before we started running. And luckily it stopped raining when we started running. And so they didn't get super wet at all, which was fantastic, and I am super grateful for. So I'm going to provide links below to all of that stuff. But if you have any questions specifically about training, go ahead and drop them below. Be happy to make another video or answer your specific questions about training for the DOPEY challenge. Now, if you're ready to move on to the next phase, we have a video specifically for you regarding the Disney Expo. And let me tell you, friends, you're going to want to watch this video so you're ready for all the craziness that's the Disney Expo.